You ever walk up to a girl and have it start off strong? Like maybe she's smiling, maybe there's some kind of little spark there, and then nothing happens. Like womp, womp, womp. It just sort of fizzles out because you didn't move it forward. You just stood there like a fucking piece of furniture, kind of like waiting for her to read your mind. Now, why'd you do that? Well, deep down, it's because you're scared. You're scared of rejection. You're scared she's going to think you're a creep. You're scared she's going to like hit you with that look of disdain that just makes you want to go home and cry and never fucking go outside again. So instead, what do? Instead of expressing yourself, you play it safe, right? You tell yourself, oh, I'll just be like, I'll be nice. And she'll get the hint. But guess what? She won't. To paraphrase Nate Diaz. I mean, fact of the matter is she might have actually been into you. She might have been waiting for you to take the lead. But when she saw you hesitate, when she felt that kind of shaky, nervous, permission boy energy, the shit just dried up like the Sahara. Because attraction is not like a logical equation where it's like, oh, he's nice, therefore I shall fuck him. It's visceral, it's emotional, it's subconscious. And when you don't make a move, you kill that momentum. She's not thinking like, oh my, what a respectful gentleman. She thinks, oh, okay, this guy's a pussy. He's unsure of himself, so why should I be sure about him? And it's fucking done. So look, I've been coaching this for 22 years now, and let me tell you, this is one of, if not the biggest dating mistake that guys make. And the crazy part is most don't even realize you're doing it. You think you're being polite, you're being smooth, but in reality, you've actually been indoctrinated to believe that showing desire is somehow wrong, that it makes you pushy or desperate or socially inept, that it's something to be ashamed of. Well, guess what? That shit, it stops right now. In this little video here, I'm breaking down exactly why this happens, how society has kind of subtly rewired you into this non-threatening, non-sexual, neutered version of yourself, and more importantly, how you can fix it. I want to show you in this video how to express interest in a way that's not creepy, it's not fucking desperate, but it's confident, it's natural, and actually attractive. First, let's get down to the root of this dysfunction, right? It goes back to social conditioning. That conditioning runs very deep, all the way back to childhood. When you were a kid, you were absorbing every single message that adults were throwing out around you. Messages about love, attraction, power, and yes, of course, sex. And for a lot of guys, those messages were psychologically corrosive, let's just say. They were toxic. Like maybe you grew up in a home where it just wasn't talked about, or it was treated as like this shameful thing. Like if it did come up, it was met with guilt, right? Like, oh, good boys don't think about that. Or again, maybe it was just complete silence. And when something's treated as unspeakable, you learn to be ashamed of it. So take that, and now let's fast forward to puberty. Now you're having these feelings, sexual feelings, you're attracted to the girls, but that early conditioning is still controlling you. You don't consciously even realize it, but you've been trained to think your sexuality is something to be hidden, not embraced. And this is where that toxic shame takes hold. It's not just embarrassment, but like, oh, it's an embarrassing thing. I mean, it is that, but it's also like this deep belief that your desires make you inherently bad. And then, of course, there's the cultural layer. I mean, let's be real. Society plays a massive role in this as well. You see the same narratives over and over and over again. Men are the predators, the aggressors. They're fucking manipulative. And look, sometimes that's true. In fact, a lot of times it's fucking true. A lot of guys do cross lines, and yes, accountability matters. But where that goes sideways is, nice guys don't learn the nuances. So instead of distinguishing between, healthy assertiveness and actual predatory behavior, they just go boom, right? Default to any expression of desire whatsoever is wrong, right? They're making a move. Even just stating what they want is like somehow harmful. So what do? They hide it, they repress it, they bury it under this like veneer of politeness. But here's the thing, that fear, it's not just stifling you, it's fucking up your relationships too. But the thing you got to understand is it's not your fault. The conditioning, the shame, the hesitation, you were programmed to believe all of this. But just like you learned it, you can also unlearn it. What if you could just go up and look someone right in the eye, express exactly what you want without, contorting yourself into this like nice version of you just to be accepted? What if you could just drop the fucking bullshit And this is exactly what we do at boot camp. I mean, let's get real. If you're serious about changing, you got to stop watching from chode corner with the drink pressed against your chest, and you actually got to step the fuck up. And at boot camp, we don't just talk about theory. We actually put you in the game. You get to experience that transformation firsthand. You feel the shift happening in real time. You ditch the overthinking. You ditch the shame. You stop hoping that something magically is going to change. You walk out of boot camp with true core confidence to actually show up powerfully and unapologetically. You get the skill set so you know how to express desire very clearly and directly. But all this bullshit hesitation, no more of this weird half-stepping. You get a level of self-understanding that most guys, quite frankly, will never reach in their entire life, right? Knowing your worth, knowing what you bring to the table, and how to own that. And most importantly, you're going to stop holding yourself back. And look, this isn't just about dating, right? This is about how you move through life. It's about becoming the kind of guy who doesn't just get attention, he actually gets respect. And if you don't see how that changes everything, that, quite honestly, you're probably too far gone to be fucking helped. I can't help you. It's above my pay grade at that point. But if something inside of you right now as you're watching this is telling you you need this, then stop fucking waiting. Click the link in the description below here. Not later, right now. Don't overthink it. Don't hesitate. That hesitation is the same thing that's actually been keeping you stuck. This is your moment. Break free. Click the link in the description. Get in the boot camp. Let's fucking go. Okay. So anyway, now that we've dissected where all this sexual shame comes from, let's kind of start to look at how it actually shows up in your life and how it's actually fucking you up. Because here's the thing. Suppressing your desires, it doesn't make them go away. All it does, it just kind of locks them away. It shoves them down into the basement of your mind, your subconscious, where in that darkness, it just kind of mutates, like Cronenberg's, into this weird, dysfunctional, self-sabotaging bullshit that you don't even realize is happening. And the very first place that this shows up is in inauthentic relationships. Like when you do this under the radar nice guy shit, you're not being honest. You're playing a role that you hope is going to be acceptable to her. That's how so many of these nice guys get stuck in the friend zone. You meet a girl, you like her, but instead of owning that, instead of leading, instead of making it crystal fucking clear that you like her as a man likes a woman, you put on this weird mask, right? You keep it friendly. You sort of hover around, hoping that she'll somehow just know. But again, she doesn't. And that's not her fault. That's yours. As to be fair, though, sometimes they do notice. They just don't fucking care. I remember one time I met this girl. I got her phone number. And I was like, hey, you want to hang out? I called her up. And she's like, oh, I'd love to, but I can't today. I'm actually moving. But you're more than welcome to come hang out while that process happens. So I went to her house, and she's got all these boxes everywhere, blah, blah, blah. And we're kind of sitting on the couch, and then we start kissing. And then this dude walks through the room, with a box. He's like, does this go on the truck? She's like, yeah. And he goes to her. I'm like, who the fuck is this? She's like, oh, that's Bill. He's a good friend of mine. She's like, I think he has a crush on me. I'm like, oh, my God, dude. What? I saw that shit. I'm like, wow. I just knew at that moment, that's helped my emotional levers. I was like, I never want to be that guy. I never want to be that fucking guy. Bill, the king of the friend zone, carrying the boxes. And actually, that brings up another point. Because suppressing your desires, it actually ends up breeding resentment. Your attraction doesn't go away just because you refuse to acknowledge it. And again, when she doesn't suddenly throw herself at you, you start getting pissed, right? That frustration builds, and it sort of curdles into bitterness. And suddenly you find yourself thinking, well, shit, oh my God, after everything I've done for her, how does she not see it? I was moving her shit while some dickhead finger blasted her on the fucking couch. She's taking advantage of me. But again, the brutal truth is this. She's not taking advantage of you. She doesn't know you shit. She didn't ask you to play this weird little game.
You have done that yourself.
And this resentment, it doesn't just poison your relationships. It poisons you. Now you've entered the nice guy to incel pipeline. I literally just made that up. I'm a fucking genius. I'm basically a fucking hilarious genius. Regardless, it's time to obliterate that shit and break out of the nice guy trap. And the first thing you need to not just understand, but internalizes this. Sex isn't bad. It's not dirty. It's not something you got to earn. It's not a transaction, okay? It's a connection. A lot of us get this completely backwards. They think that intimacy is something they receive for being good enough, right? They've been conditioned to believe that if they just never upset her, they never rock the boat, they always say the perfect thing, they always prioritize their needs over their own, then magically she's going to reward them with sex. When you treat sex like a reward, it stops being about connection and it turns into validation seeking. Instead of like a mutual attraction, well, now you have this weird situation where it's like a one-sided audition where you're trying to qualify for the job. And in that process, you actually end up stripping yourself of what actually makes you attractive. What's that? Genuine, authentic self-expression. And dude, you know, just beyond that, it's weird. It's weird and manipulative. And women pick up on this instantly, like not consciously probably. It's not like verbalized in their head, but instinctually. You know, they're not thinking, oh, here we have another one that sees intimacy as a transaction. They're not thinking it, but they feel it. You're not trying to connect with them as a person. You're trying to mine validation out of the situation through niceness. It's fucking gross. It's disgusting. Because nobody wants to feel like they're being coerced into some deal they never agreed to. So how do you fix this? Well, again, you got to deprogram the guilt around your own desire. You know, your desire for sex is not a problem to be solved. Your attraction to women is not a social offense. It doesn't make you a bad guy. To the contrary, it's actually one of the most innate, hardwired, deeply human aspects of your existence and theirs. Regardless of all this, nice guys, after these little nice guys, after years of conditioning, they tend to fall into one of two extreme failure patterns, let's just call them. Number one, they overcompensate by being like super accommodating, orbiting around, being super polite, hoping the goodness will be reciprocated. And then, of course, when that doesn't work, the pendulum swings hard in the other direction, and they turn to these like bitter, resentful, sometimes outright aggressive fucking dickheads when their needs aren't like magically met. Sometimes they do both. You know, it kind of reminds me of another story. I was dating this girl, and not dating, but you know what I mean. And so she was telling me about, she went on this date earlier in the week, some Tinder date with some dude. And she goes on the date, and he's kind of this like ineffectual little guy. He's kind of like a fucking loser, whatever. He wasn't nice, again, a nice guy, but she wasn't feeling it. And then he drops her off at home. And at the door, he says to her, he goes, "May I please have a hug?" Like, she's like, "Okay, here's your hug." And then he like goes off into the night, whatever. She doesn't think much about it. The next day in the evening, like 10 p.m., she gets this message from the guy that says, "I want to bend you over and fuck you up the ass." She's like, "What the fuck? Like, what the fuck is this?" In fact, she texts him like, "Yo, what the fuck?" And like, "May I please have a hug, guys?" Like coming hard. And then the next day he's like, "Oh my God, I was drunk. I'm sorry. And she's like, "Dude, blocked." That's what happens when you suppress your sexuality instead of owning it. Again, that it doesn't go away. It just ferments and distorts itself like and builds up. And when it finally, boom, like explodes out, it's like awkward, uncomfortable, and borderline demented. And again, just to be very clear, neither of these approaches work. The nice guy, doormat shit, like DOA. The bitter, misogynist lunatic, even worse. Some kind of amusing, I guess, unless you're the target of it, of course, unless you're on the receiving end of it. But shit don't work. So what does work? Owning your intention, right? Not hiding, not apologizing for it, but also not hinging your self-worth on whether they actually reciprocate. So, instead of tiptoeing around your attraction and hoping that she figures it out, you just give a statement of interest. You express the interest straight up. You're like, "Damn, girl, I'm going to take you to the fucking mall, hold hands, walk around. I'm going to buy shit." Or, if you want to perhaps be a bit more urbane, you can say, "Oh, well, good evening. Your appearance is wonderful. I'd love to take you on a romantic date. My mom got me a gift card to P.F. Chang's, so we should probably go there, huh? When you're there, your family." It's actually the Olive Garden, but again, that's neither here nor there. So, and note, when I say these things, and again, there's just like some examples off the cuff. I have there's a billion of them, but when I say these things, I'm like laughing. It's fun. It's lighthearted. There's no gravity or weight or pressure to it. It's just all very light. But the point is, you express your interest clearly, without expectation, without entitlement. Because when you approach one with clarity, with directness, and with no shame, very important, you're showing them, and more importantly, you're showing yourself that your desire is not something to be ashamed of. You're owning it. That's the energy of a man who commands respect. So let's flip your perspective here, because this shift here is what's going to change it, all right? It's step by step to get rid of this shit. Step one, you got to accept that attraction is natural. Most guys, like I said at the beginning, they don't even realize that they're treating attraction like some kind of problem. They think, if I like her, I need to make sure she doesn't think I'm a creep. If I express interest, I need to do it absolutely perfectly and walk this tightrope so she doesn't get uncomfortable. Let's be very clear here. Your attraction isn't the problem. The problem is hiding it. That's the fucking problem. When you're treating it like this shameful secret, again, it's fucking weird. Women can feel that awkward, apologetic energy. Oh, please, is it okay? But when you treat it like it's totally normal, it makes them feel comfortable too. Whatever you feel, they feel. Somebody who owns his, like a man who owns his attraction, that's actually someone a woman can relax around. Why? Because they're not trying to guess his intentions. They're not like waiting for the other shoe to drop. All right, so that's step one. Step two, redefine rejection as a filter, not a failure. Most clients and most guys, quite frankly, they treat rejection like a statement about their self-worth instead of what it actually is, a natural part of finding the right connection, right? Think about it. You could be the best, most attractive version of yourself. You could run pitch perfect fucking game and you could still get rejected. It's not because you're failing. It's because you and that particular person were not a fit. And that's a good thing. Now, of course, we're assuming here that you're not making stupid errors, like dumb mechanical errors, like approaching abruptly from behind and saying weird shit. There's a lot of that. And you probably are doing a lot of that. And that's something that we can address on boot camp. But it's not hard to learn those simple fundamental skills. And once you get that skill set, rejection actually ends up saving you time. It's filtering out the people who aren't into you so you can focus on the ones who actually are. But when you start to see it as proof that you're not good enough, that's when you start hesitating. That's when you hold back. And that hesitation, it's what actually kills your chances. The guys who succeed in dating aren't the ones who never get rejected. They're just the ones who don't let rejection stop them. In fact, the guys with the most success are actually getting rejected the most, point blank, period. Like, that's true as fuck. They hear no and they just move on. They move it forward. They keep stepping instead of like going into a shame spiral and circling the drain of despair. They're not taking it personally. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal at all. It's just part of the process. And the second that you start seeing it that same way, that's when you become unstoppable. Step three, learn to express attraction directly, right? Straightforward, straight up. Like, drop the fucking guessing games. These little nice guys, they think that subtlety is the key to attraction. They're going to drop hints, play it safe, and hope that they just know. And again, it is not how it works. There's a saying in marketing, people don't know what they don't know, right? Women are not mind readers. If you don't say it, they're not going to know it. So stop trying to like telegraph your attraction through these like vague fucking smoke signals and shit. Like, cut the shit, right? Cut the shit. Just say it outright. None of these like convoluted disclaimers. No, like waiting for the perfect moment. Oh, it wasn't the right moment. You make the fucking moment. Like, oh, the vibe. Like, I've asked students that before. Like, why didn't you do anything? It's like, well, the vibe wasn't right. It's like, you're the fucking man. You make the fucking vibe. You make the fucking vibe. And here's the thing. Even if she's not interested, you still win. Because why? You showed up as your authentic self. That's the foundation of real confidence. All right, step 4. Drop the performance and just be present. Most guys think confidence means, again, saying the right thing, making the perfect move, like threading the needle perfectly every time, having to be perfect. No, it's not about performance. It's about presence. So when you're trying to impress people, you're trying to get it perfect, or you're, constantly monitoring yourself and trying to like micromanage other people's perception of you, you're not actually there. You're in your head. You're analyzing everything. Again, you're so in your own head. There's no room for the other person's experience. And women feel that. It makes the interaction like tense, awkward, very unnatural. But when you stop that micromanaging and you just focus on the moment, something happens, right? You stop filtering your words. You just say whatever the fuck you want. You say what you actually think. You stop trying to prove yourself and you start just being yourself. And that's when you actually start having fun. For many people, that's such a mind-blowing concept that this could be fun to go out and socialize. You start actually having fun, that's the most attractive thing you can do. Because when someone feels they can relax around you, that's when real connection happens. When you own your intention, you're stepping into a version of masculinity that isn't just strong, it's healthy, right? And that changes the game, right? You're no longer performing, you're not overcompensating, you're not trying to prove yourself. Instead, you're showing up as somebody who's grounded, who's unapologetically real, and communicating in a respectful, straightforward way. That energy, that's the foundation of real intimacy. The kind that's not built on these weird fucking covert agendas and shit. The kind that isn't about convincing someone to like you. The kind where both people are like choosing each other freely and enthusiastically, like, fuck yeah, let's do this. That's what we're aiming for. And look, this goes far, far beyond dating, right? This is about how you move through the world, how you move through the world. When you make this shift, people respond to you differently. It's not about like trying to be a new person. It's really about unlearning all these fucking lies that you've been fed about your desires, your worth, and how you're supposed to show up in the world. It's really about reclaiming who you were before society convinced you to be a little bitch. You don't need permission to take up space. You don't need validation to be worthy. You don't need to like twist yourself into some neutered, non-threatening version of a man just to be accepted. You need to actually step up and step into the version of yourself that's confident, authentic, and unapologetically real. You got the tools now, right? Everything that you need to start making this shift has been outlined in this very video, okay? It's right here, so take it, use it. Start showing up as the man you're meant to be, because nobody's going to do this shit for you. It's on you now. It's been your boy, Jeffy, and I'll see you next time.
The live program is really good for taking action and solidifying certain lessons into yourself. Like it's in your nervous system. It's impossible not to learn something. You're going to walk away from this program. There's going to be something a lot different about you. I watched, these guys on YouTube for years, and I sat around with great intentions. I had good intentions all day. Nothing's going to shift with good intentions. It's only going to shift with good actions. Thank you, Jeffy. I'm excited for the future, and, I'm excited to just keep trying to grow on this journey. Thank you so much.